Hey there, welcome back to the Path to Zion podcast, where we are rediscovering the ancient way. Thank you for joining us back on the program today for another audio-only episode. We are right in the middle of releasing the four-part series talking about a question. What is sin according to the Word alone? How do we define sin biblically? I would encourage you, if you have not checked out that series thus far, as I'm recording this one, parts 1 and 2 are live. 3 and 4 will be coming in the next several days. But for a little bit today, I just want to talk about something that I believe could be helpful for anyone who is in need of help, encouragement, and to remind all of us that it is biblically, spiritually speaking, good for us to resist instant comfort and relief. Now, in several areas of my life right now, personal and others that I know, there is what Paul referenced in the scriptures as a light and momentary affliction. Some dear friends of ours are going through a painful experience of being let down by men, as many of us have experienced or even are now. And if we haven't yet, we will be. A dream that they've been working towards for several years now, that they were giving their entire lives for, dedicated to the utmost, is very likely coming to an end, unfulfilled, unaccomplished. Now, they are, of course, wounded by this, asking very tough questions about deep questions now, relational ones. How in the world do we walk in unity together? How do we be humble men? How do we submit ourselves in humility to other individuals? Be like our Messiah and try in any way to function in this life alongside anyone else. Now they are confused, wondering how Yahweh could allow things to go this way, understandably, asking what are his plans now? Have you ever been there? I sure have. I thought that Father's plans were this. They, of course, are in a place where many of us have been before, just desiring a place of peace and comfort. Now, I am wanting to be clear to say that Father's peace can supersede a circumstance. And it's not that we need to walk anxious or worrisome or angry, but I am encouraging us to be honest to how we feel, not living according to our feelings, but just open and honest towards them, that sometimes we have questions, sometimes we wrestle with doubt if you're honest. It doesn't mean you're not a person of faith anymore, or you're a backslider, or all these things many of us grew up being told. It just means we're real people struggling through real life events and maybe practicing, whether we know it or not deliberately, we're practicing how to resist demanding, requiring instant comfort and relief. Now, a bit more personally for me in my household, we recently returned from a 10-day trip away, doing some traveling we get away once a year and we visit some family, and someone came onto our property while we were gone. We live out in the middle of nowhere and don't see a whole lot of traffic right here. But somebody cut up the electrical lines of a pond fountain that my son had worked for months to save up money to buy. And he, of course, was asking, why in the world would someone do that? That just makes no sense. Of course, I had no good answer to the question. And I, as a father, wanted to rush in and remedy his sadness, his emotions. I wanted to buy him a new fountain pretty quickly to replace it right then and there. Yet here we are. It's weeks later now, and we have done a repair on it, but it's not working right. It's not functioning the same. There's no new one on the way. Now, why is this? Because of this, many good opportunities to discuss real life with my son have come to the surface. Although it's tough, it's filled with opportunity, friend. And so if we fight the urge to, quote, hurry in and make everything okay and allow life circumstances to run their course, I believe it's for our good. If we turn to the Father, it is, I would submit for your consideration, for our good, because we know that the plans of the enemy to frustrate our lives or to discourage us, distract us, cause us to be anxious, frustrated, and I would propose even giving us this urge to rush in and make a situation okay, like this opportunity with my son, Instead of just watch him be upset, which he handled it way better than probably I would have. It didn't really bother him as much as I would have expected. But I still had that urge to rush in and make him feel all right and not and what can I do as a dad to not allow him to be sad or disappointed, or in this case, frustrated at why in the world somebody would do this? Surely I can rush in and make this right. But I fought that urge, and I've seen really good fruit from it because I didn't rush in and remedy the issue. I didn't usher in instant comfort and relief for him, and I believe that's going to be for his good if he can add that to his life, as we all need to, in my opinion. Now, in my own heart, several years ago, a bit of personal testimony, we went through a great cutting away of relationships. Plans that were set in stone as much as I knew to establish anyway, fell to pieces. People that I thought would walk out my remaining years beside me and would eventually even bury me were gone, geographically and relationally. And all of our dreams went with them. Now, this is not a blame game issue at all where we were abandoned and we were left behind and everybody, we found the truth and all those who didn't want the truth left. No. But I was broken, and I was lost and really wandering for a while, and literally physically wandering my property, as it took a great time to walk through, crying out to Father to bring answers if he would just show me, what are you doing, Father? And again, I'll continue to pose this as a personal question. Have you ever been in a place where you just like we read so many of the Psalms that David penned, and we know, of course, his circumstances were often life and death. But in our version of what we can just, I believe, without being overdramatic, places of despair, places of desperation, crying out to Father. And as I always say, I had an opportunity to tell someone this morning. When we are in these places, friend, if, all caps, underlined, in bold, highlighted, if these circumstances can press us towards the Father, I believe his purposes will be accomplished. That is the utmost key. We're not talking about ignoring how we feel, ignoring our thoughts, ignoring our questions. I'm not talking about neglecting those hard places, nor am I talking about elevating them to some hyper-spiritual, make-believe world either. I'm just simply talking about yielding to Father's ways as they come in our life. I have a dear brother who recently lost his job and thought he was getting another job and was very hopeful and excited about it and thanking the Father openly and excited about what might be around the corner. And that job didn't work out. He has questions. He has wonderings. That's okay. Let us just not be these robotic spiritual men. Well, I just trust God. Next, let's talk about the weather. Let's just be humble men and say, you know what? I'm just really struggling. I'm really needing encouraged as I resist instant comfort and relief. Friend, we do not always have to understand Father's ways in the moment. We know the Scriptures. His ways are higher than our ways. His thoughts are higher than our thoughts. So far above our limited understanding and vantage points. That's okay. That's okay. That's why we need him, friend. And to my point, my relational hurts, damages caused by me and by others took a great time to walk through. And in all honesty, deep down, it's still in process in some ways as I continually learn from my own mistakes and strive to not repeat those things in relationships moving forward. It's worth noting that preceding this specific change in our lives back then several years ago, I learned the necessity of laboring together for unity. I learned that I had never really needed unity of the Spirit before that season. I learned a lot back then. And this is what I had the wonderful privilege to share with our friends that I referenced a few moments ago at the beginning, a few nights ago. We encouraged them to endure well in their disappointing circumstances, to embrace suffering. I humbly believe that Father had led me to remind them of what I remind myself, that he is close to the brokenhearted. I shared this with a brother who had a family member on their deathbed weeks ago. Let's not fight off being brokenhearted. Let's not fight off sadness and disappointment. We want Father's nearness. Well, let us confess and be willingly open to be humble and to just humbly admit, you know what? I'm just brokenhearted. Whether we're disappointed in ourselves or we're disappointed in other people, or we think that for a moment, maybe we're disappointed in the Father's circumstances that He's allowed to bring about in my life. Why? I'm fine when my son comes to me with an open, contrite, honest heart, friend, to talk to me as a son talks to a father. That's our heart's desire, right? Is to just have an open, honest exchange with our children. And hopefully the other way around, looking up to our Father, our Heavenly Father, being willing to resist instant comfort and relief and yield ourselves to whatever it is that Father brings. Father's promises should be a great encouragement to all of us who ever face a situation that grieves us deeply. We all have them. We all have them. We'll continue to have them in this not yet kingdom that we're awaiting a fulfillment where, what? Father's going to wipe away all tears from our eyes. New Jerusalem is something I can't even wrap my brain around, and I have a pretty good imagination. I would say if we don't allow ourselves to be brokenhearted in the here and now, if we have a practice of avoiding hurts and always running them off for ourselves, for our children, for people we care about, perhaps we're chasing away Father's closeness and comfort for us and for them both. I always try to tell people that grief and sadness can be a wonderful blessing. Why? Well, we've been created to feel, and Father's nearness is our good. Now, if I can give any sort of advice worth hearing towards this matter to encourage any one of us, it would be this. Don't rush in and instigate relief and comfort when a situation is less than perfect. To our three primary examples that I shared just about relationships that I know and my own, I believe that it's best for us to endure and remain within the process that Father allows to come our way. I know many people who anything, quote, bad happens, it's the devil. You better pray that away. You better command it in Jesus' name to get out of here. Friend, I don't really see that as a biblical pattern. I see men who endured hardship. I see men who willingly embraced trials, persecution, suffering. Why? They considered it a mark of one who was called to endure through power not of their own, not from themselves. We are to be a dependent people, friend. That's okay in this age of self-empowerment and nothing phases us. Be strong, be a strong woman, be a mighty warrior. Well, okay. Let's also be humble people who can willingly admit that many times we just were in a little bit of an opposition to trials, to testings, and we have a propensity to desire instant comfort and relief. Now, many lessons I would say are to be learned within these circumstances of life as we all practice how to humbly walk within our own selves with Yahweh, the Most High, and especially when we have to walk humbly beside others within the body of Messiah. Now, to my point about my son, his disappointment with a pretty big financial loss to him and the offense that comes in a fallen world and, hurt people, right? I really do believe, as I've told him, I believe this can produce some good fruit in him. And I've been seeing that because I didn't rush him into comfort and relief. I keep reminding him to talk to Yahweh about it all, that I realize in the moment, this is an opportunity for him to practice talking to the Most High, talking to the Father, and establishing an ongoing dialogue within a moment of distress, discomfort, disappointment. Father's justice is perfect, and all that we have is His anyway. And equally, we're not cold to the fact that sometimes things in life just stinks. This is just real life. To my personal example years ago, that season is still doing a work in me. I continue to look back, examine my own failures and shortcomings. If you ever watch this channel, you know that I never promote that trials in our lives are always someone else's fault. Sometimes, many times, it's us. And other times, it's circumstances and people outside of our control. So what about you today, friend? I would ask, do you have any hurts in your life, any disappointments, any issues ongoing or in the past, or ones brewing that might turn into your future that you just wish would go away? You just wish were different? Do you have anything that's been going on that you rushed in to remedy and run off for yourself or for others in your life because you just wanted to fix the situation and make them feel better? I get it. I want to do that often myself. I'm way too comfortable here, and I love things just right as much as possible. But I want to read some scriptures as we wrap this up here today in our discussion, this brief audio episode about resisting instant comfort and relief. So let's look to the Word to establish some consideration, shall we? Romans chapter 15, verse 4. For whatever was written in earlier times was written for our instruction, so that through perseverance and the encouragement of the Scriptures, we might have hope. We highlight here on the program all the time. It's worth noting that in Romans chapter 15, he's talking about the Torah and the prophets. What was written in earlier times, the Torah and the prophets can instruct us. And as we persevere, we are given encouragement of the Scriptures. And it gives us hope, friend. James chapter 1, verse 4, let endurance have its perfect result, so that you may be perfect and complete, lacking in nothing. 1 Peter chapter 2, 18 through 20, servants, be subject to your masters with all respect, not only to those who are good and gentle, but also to those who are harsh. For this finds favor if for the sake of conscience towards Elohim, a person endures grief when suffering unjustly. For what credit is there if, when you sin and are harshly treated, you endure it with patience? But if when you do what is right and suffer for it, you patiently endure it, for this finds favor with Elohim. James chapter 1, verse 12. Blessed is a man who perseveres under trial, for once he has been approved, he will receive the crown of life, which Yahweh has promised to those who love him. There are blessings, friend. Approval is in the future for those who endure to the end. James chapter 5, verse 11, we count those blessed who endured. You have heard of the endurance of Job and have seen the outcome of Yahweh's dealings, that Yahweh is full of compassion and is merciful. Now, friend, when we talk about Job and we read the account of Job, does the very first thing that comes to your mind, is it Yahweh's compassion and his mercifulness? We would say, oh man, poor Job, let up a little bit, won't you, Yahweh? But here, even here, at a very extreme example, will we not say, we see Father's compassion and mercy. A good place to wrap this up would be Messiah's own parable in Matthew chapter 13, which says this, listen then to the parable of the sower. When anyone hears the word of the kingdom and does not understand it, the evil one comes and snatches away what has been sown in his heart. This is the one sown with seed beside the road. Verse 20, the one sown with seed on the rocky places. This is the one who hears the word and immediately receives it with joy. Yet he has no firm root in himself, but is only temporary. And then something happens. When affliction or persecution occurs because of the word, immediately he falls away. And the one sown with seed among the thorns, this is the one who hears the word, and the anxiety of the world and the deceitfulness of wealth choke the word, and it becomes unfruitful. But the one sown with seed on good soil, this is the one who hears the word and understands it, who indeed bears fruit and produces some 100, some 60, some 30 times as much. Friends, many times we are like this seed that is sown on rocky places. We may hear the word and immediately receive it with joy, yet many times we don't have a firm root established, no foundation that keeps us unmovable. And it's only temporary. And when affliction or persecution occurs because of this word, friend, we can have the propensity to fall away. That to me is intimately acquainted with this discussion today. What if falling away is just a consideration that I have within myself? What if it is escapism mentality? We talk about like what I deemed 20 years ago, back when I used to write blogs, rapturitis. We have a craving in our natural man, friend, to escape trial, to escape persecution, to escape affliction. We are escapism-driven people many times. I submit for your consideration. What circumstances are in your past that you maybe just didn't rightly handle? What circumstances are you in right now? And may you put this into your thought pattern in circumstances you are yet to be in, to consider, are there any ways in my heart, in my approach to my life, where I am found resisting? And do I allow Father's purposes to unfold for me and for my household? Because, friend, I believe there are great, great treasures within us enduring well. I think we're a good example that way. I think we can be an example to places unseen, principalities and powers, like we see with the account of Job, where we are marked. We are Yahweh's possession. And this will demonstrate to others, I believe, a dependence upon something much, much greater than ourselves, better than our stamina, better than our resolve, that you know what? Sometimes things just stink. But my Father's ways are right and good. And even though I don't want to be in this circumstance right now, I'm just going to choose to endure because His plans for me are perfect. Whether this is self-induced or because this came to me from something outside of my control entirely, ultimately speaking, the Most High oversees everything in my life. And I want to see, I will labor unto finding my Father's plan instead of resisting what He brings to my way, what He allows to unfold. I will not demand instant comfort and relief, but instead I will endure well and hopefully be deemed pleasing in His sight. You've been listening to the Path to Zion podcast, where we are rediscovering the ancient way. Find us over at pathtozion.com, YouTube, Facebook. Reach out to us anytime, 24/7, at pathtoZionPodcast@gmail.com. Amen.